In this video, we are going to discuss the rhythm aspect of our music notation. In the previous video, I talked about how to notate a pitch. So, if you can go to page 4 of our handout, so you will see the chart with whole note, whole rest, half note, half rest, a quarter rest, an eighth note, and an eighth rest. So the whole note is the longest note. Half is half as long as a whole note. A quarter note is half as long as a half note, and it's a quarter of a whole note. Eighth note is half as long as a quarter note, and an eighth of a whole note. I think you get the idea. So now, what does that mean? How long is each note? So I can't answer that question in an absolute term. That's what I mean when I wrote the rhythm. The notation is relative, meaning that whatever you decide for a quarter note, okay, whatever length you give, that's really up to you. But once you decide, your half note needs to be twice as long. Your whole note needs to be 4 times as long as a quarter note. And your eighth note needs to be half as long as a quarter note. And why am I using the quarter note as the standard? That's only because that's the most often used length, especially for our level. So that's why I gave the quarter note 1 beat, half note 2 beats, a whole note 4 beats, eighth note half a beat. So what does that mean? So this is what it means. Okay, so let's say this is your quarter note. My hand is beating quarter note, so your quarter note you would play. Again, my hand is beating quarter notes, so your half note should be twice as long, right? So it should be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Notice I didn't go 1, 2, 1, 2. If I went 1, 2, 1, 2 together with my right hand beating the quarter notes, you're only playing quarter notes, so that's not good. Half note needs to stay there on the key. Do not replay the same note. Just stay there for 2 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be your whole note. So what about your eighth note? If this is your quarter note, your eighth note be like that. Let's say your song has eighth notes and you feel like you can't play your eighth notes that fast. Then make your quarter note slower. Then everything became slower. This is your quarter note, half note, eighth note, like that. And the rest signs correspond to the length of each. I'll show you in a bit with examples. I want to talk a little bit about the tie. The tie sign, it's an arc, connects 2 or more identical notes. This identical part is very important. Why is that? Because a tie sign, you are in the middle of page 4 now. The tie sign tells you not to play the second note, but keep adding the length of both notes. So here, you see? This is half a note, 2 half notes connected, 2 plus 2. So you keep holding the same note for 4 beats here. A quarter note plus a quarter note, 2 beats. So you play the first time and keep holding it for 2 beats. Now, underneath, you see another special sign. It's called a dot. A dot next to a note, next to a whole note, next to a half note, next to a quarter note, so on and so forth, makes the original length 1.5 times longer. So 4 original length times 1 point, I'm sorry, did I say 1.4? 1.5 times 1.5 times the original length 4 would be 6. This half note without the dot would have been 2 beats, so with a dot now it's 3 beats. A dotted quarter note will be 1.5 beats. Okay, so here is our example. Sorry, it's a little windy here. 2 quarter notes followed by 2 eighth notes, so on and so forth. So what would be, yeah, let's go over this together. 2 quarter notes followed by 2 eighth notes, 2 quarter notes, a half note, a quarter note tied to a half note. So again, yeah, we just talked about a tie. 1 beat plus 2 beats. So you hold this beat for 3 beats like that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's that simple. And then followed by a dotted half note. That too also 3 beats. Quarter note, 4 eighth notes, a quarter rest. So here you just count 1, but as you count 1, you don't play anything, just silence. Followed by a quarter note. Okay, so let's try this one. So let's say that this is your quarter note. Da, 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 like that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, rest, 1, like that. Okay, let me try to hold this here and play so that you can see and listen at the same time. I'm playing the top one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's the length of my quarter note. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, rest. Okay, so let's do the next one. Looking ahead, a half note followed by a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, 2 quarter notes, and this is a half rest. So you pause for 2. So you hold some, this is a D, hold it for 2 beats, 1, 2, then off for 2 beats, 1, 2, then quarter note, 4 eighth notes, quarter rest. What would you do here? Do you have an answer? So here's a half note, okay, connected to a whole note. So you will hold this whole thing for how many beats? 2 plus 4, okay, 6. So let's do this. So again, 2, 3, 4, something like that. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, off. So you noticed probably the very last note, which should have lasted for 6 beats. On my keyboard, the sound died out, but it's okay. Okay, as long as your finger is on it. So let's try one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let's do this one more time. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, off, 2, 1, 1, 1, off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Okay, so turning the page, the next page also discusses something very important, which is meter. So on top of your page, you see what the real music looks like, sheet music looks like. Okay, and you see the number marked 2, 4. The set of 2 numbers on top of each other is called meter. And the square or rectangular unit I marked with the blue, that's called a measure. We are learning meter and measure at the same time because they are related. Meter tells you how many beats per measure you have. The top number is a number of beats per measure. 4, the bottom number in this case, refers to the length of each beat, because if you are told just the number of beats per measure, you still don't know how long it's going to be. 4 refers to a quarter note. So that means in its simplest form, each measure should have 2 quarter notes. And you see the 2 quarter notes here, right? 2 quarter notes, 2 quarter notes here. Yeah? It's not 2 quarter notes. It's 1 half note, but it still fits in 2/4. Why? Because a half note is worth 2 quarter notes. So it's not always in its simplest form that you see. You do a little bit of math and you will see that it fits. So the last part of our rhythm and meter video, I'm going to show you some examples with meter. The first example is in 4/4. That means you expect to see 4 top number, quarter notes the bottom number, okay, per measure. Again, a measure is these rectangular units. So did I do this right? So the first measure you see 4 quarter notes. That's good. The next measure you see a half note, 1 quarter note, 2 eighth notes. Does that make sense? I think so, because this half note is 2, right? 2 quarter notes. This is a quarter note. 2 eighth notes together make up a quarter note. So 2 plus 1 plus 1, 4 quarter notes. What about here? You see a quarter rest? That's 1 beat. This is a dotted half note. Half note originally is 2 beats, right? And then with a dot it becomes 3 beats. So 1 plus 3. Okay. Now 2 eighth notes, 1 quarter note. 2 eighth notes again amount to 1 quarter note, followed by a half rest. So you pause for 2 beats. 1 plus 1 plus 2. Okay, so that's good. And what note is that? So you look at the clef sign. That's the bass clef, right? So if you didn't pay attention and just assume that we are using the treble clef, you might have thought, oh, okay, so that's F4, but no, it's A. Which A is that? So this is the middle C. Okay, you go over the lower A and lower C, I'm sorry. So it's, I actually don't have that A on the screen, so I'm going to just pick a random pitch. Okay, sorry about that. Let's do it here. So now, once you know the meter, it's, I think, helpful for you to count a blank measure, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4 to establish the pulse, and then you start playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, is it on? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Again, why am I counting 1, 2, 3, 4? Because of the meter. The top number 4 tells you you should expect 4 beats per measure. And why am I playing each quarter note on the number, meaning 1, 2? Because each beat is worth a quarter note because of the bottom number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. The next one is 3, 4. if you want to pause this video and work things out on your own, it might be fun for you, but I'm gonna keep going. You can pause this video anytime, obviously. So yeah, the next one is 3-4. So should I go 1 2 3 4 or 1 2 3 this time? The latter, because the top number now is 3. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 is how this little phrase should feel. So just by counting 1 2 3 1 2 3 versus 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, I think you get the I guess some feel that 4-4 and 3-4 flow very differently. Okay, so now let's try this again. I'm going to pick actually, yeah, this is treble clef in E, so it's within the here like that. Okay, so well, the note doesn't really matter in this case. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So let's discuss this in a little more detail. The first measure is simple enough. That's the simplest 3-4 can get. The next measure, a half note, 2 beats, measured by a quarter note. So that also amounts to 3, so that's good, right? The next measure, the third measure, has a quarter note tied to the quarter note, the previous quarter note. That means you do not play that one. You do play the second quarter note because that does not have a tie. The third beat is taken care of by 2 eighth notes, so that's it for the third measure. The last measure, the first rest sign, the quarter rest, takes care of the first beat. The half note there takes care of 2 beats and brings the whole measure 3 beats. So let's do this one more time. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 rest 2 3, like that. So thank you for watching this long video. Yeah, you might have to rewind and watch some parts one more time and review, but I think this is the kind of thing that comes together and becomes more natural and intuitive as you play more songs. So as long as you understand the fundamentals, yeah, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so talk to you soon.